Well, this is a different look.
Illustrations by me.
You're kind of invading my space a little bit, but I don't mind it. It's okay. You can't really see me moving my hands unless I talk up here. So one of the things I hear people say is certain things aren't abstract art because you actually know what they are. So there are abstract landscapes. Those are real things. You can still say, hey, look, this is abstract, but it looks, you understand what it is. And some of my favorite things I've ever done have been abstract landscapes. I used to do them exclusively for a little while, but then I decided I don't really want to do just that. I would like to explore other things, but could I? Could I show you how to do abstract landscapes in such a way that they are abstract, and don't let anybody tell you that they're not? They are abstract pieces of art, but yet you know what they are. Let me give you a quick example of a couple of these. I'm going to flash up on the screen now. That my head takes up almost the entire screen, so hopefully it's up here somewhere. So this first one, just a couple of trees. I think it looks pretty good. I don't have a problem with it. It's a little sunset scene. This is abstract because it's not, I didn't put any detail into it that would make you think, oh, this is a normal painting. It's very abstract. Maybe not as abstract as some other ones, but how about this one? This one is a little bit less abstract. You can see the house a little bit more, but the lines, if you look closely, the lines are very undefined. I'm just putting in some general strokes, and I don't like the trees on this one. This is before I really knew how to do the trees, so I don't like them that much on this one. This here is one of the first ones I've ever done. I don't know if I did this one first or if I did the other one with the two trees first. I think this one might have been first. This one I donated. It was for some giveaway they were raising money for something. I don't even know if it sold or what it sold for, if it did. But I did donate this one. I love this one though. All of the ink work is done with a toothpick. We're going to get into using different tools that you don't know what you've never used before. I think I used a toothpick and a stick for all of the ink work on this one. But I'm going to show you, that's a different video though, not this video. This video we're just focusing on how do we do an abstract landscape or an intuitive landscape. A lot of people like that word now. Intuitive landscape. We're going to stick with that word maybe. We'll see how that goes. But then this other one, this is one of the last ones that I did back when I was doing a lot of them. And I enjoy how it came out. The colors are great. I love it. The key is you have to use the roughest paper you can. But in this video, I'm not. In this video, I'm just going to use regular cold press because that's probably what you have. You have cold press paper. It's not the best on hot press paper. You can do it, but it's not going to work out the right way. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to make some abstract trees. Just very easy and simple, very loose. I'm going to use a brush pen, the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen with ink in it, and I'm using the Bombay, Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink, black, just the regular black, not the extra matte or the hypercarbon or whatever they call it, just the regular black one. I love this ink. I've used it for so long. It's one of my favorites to use. So I'm going to show you how to do that with this ink, and you just let it flow. It's very loose. This is a very relaxing thing. This is a therapy session. Now, I had an old friend that it was a while ago, and we stopped talking, and then we were gonna talk again. They told someone else, it was a third party we both knew, and they said, yeah, I'd like to get together with them again, but it can't be a therapy session. And that was the last time I ever talked to that person. Well, that's a different story. We're not doing that in this video. Maybe later. Now, before we get into this, I just want to say, a lot of times this is what I do out in nature. When I go for a nature walk and I'm going to do a little sketch thing, this is the kind of thing I do. It's very quick, very fast. You can get something down and it looks nice to me. It looks very pleasant to me. Maybe it doesn't look pleasant to you. It looks pleasant to me. I enjoy it. All right, let's get to the trees. All right, so this is the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. This is what I'm going to start with, and I'm just going to hold it on its side and kind of scumble across the paper and just let it be as loose as it is. Just put in whatever marks show up. Don't worry about it. I like to put a couple little thicker spots of ink, and the rest of it is just light, like thrashing. That's about it. And you'll see how this comes out, but this is, you're just looking for a form, a shape of a tree, but you're not really putting in much detail. Like you see, the detail is happening, but I'm not putting it in purposefully. It's just kind of, as I move the pen across the page, it's popping up like that. Now, this ink, you're going to want to put in a brush pen, but not in a fountain pen. Don't ever put this kind of ink in a fountain pen. It'll destroy it. But anyway, I want to make sure that you understand what I'm doing. So I do put in a little bit of some branches and some, like a trunk, but look how rough it looks because I'm going to put paint around it to make it just grab the whole form. We'll be done with the paint. This is just shadow. You're only filling in the shadow with the ink. That's all you're doing. But it is, again, it's a very quick. You can take care of this and get this done fast. Well, as you see, this is real time, and look how quickly the tree is in there, or at least the shape of the tree. And now I'm putting in a little detail on the bottom just to give it a little ground to stand on. And then I'm going to put the watercolor in. You're going to see how quick that goes. It's just going to be very quick. I'm going to use just a couple little colors. And this is the first way to do it. This is only the first way. You use the ink as the base layer. In the second one, I'm going to show you how to do the watercolor as the base layer. So that's what I'm going to show you now. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is to let that ink dry. You don't want to put the watercolor right on top right away. You want the watercolor to dry, or the ink to dry a little bit before you put on the watercolor. Otherwise it'll just bleed into it. It does have to dry. So it does dry completely waterproof, but you'll see you have to let it sit for a minute. Now, the second one here that I've just done here on the right, this is a concentrated Payne's blue gray. You can use black, you can use like a neutral tint or something, whatever you use to get your dark shadows in watercolor. The difference with this one is it's going to blend much easier. So you're going to see it when I put the watercolor on top of this one, it's going to pick up the watercolor underneath a little bit and it's going to blend a little bit. If you want to use something else, like this is, I think this is the Stonehenge Aqua 300-pound watercolor paper, cold press. But if you used maybe the Fluid 100 hot press paper, that kind of sucks it in immediately and doesn't move underneath. So, but like I said, I would prefer to use cold press watercolor paper for this technique. You need that little texture to grab that brush. So I'm trying to make it as dry as I possibly can, as concentrated as I can, but I'm still putting it in, and you'll see how they show up. So I'm going to go in first to the watercolor one and add the color to that. And I'm going to make this look a little bit more like normal tree colors, but you'll see later how I'm going to use, in the other one, I'm going to make, just, you can use whatever colors you want. I like to pick a palette of 2 colors at most, because then when you put it on there, you're only going to see the lighter spots and then the darker spots. So that's how I like to pick the colors, with a lighter color and then a darker color. In this one, I'm using the Perylene Green first. That's how I'm adding that. That's actually a dark color. So, but you're going to see, because it's blending with the Payne's Blue Gray that's already in there, it's almost like there is another color that's a little bit lighter. So I'm not going to add another color to this one. I've already got my 2 colors. It just happens to already be in there. But I'm going to try and do this as best I can. I'm going to make it a little bit, you'll see some parts are a little bit more watered out, so they're a little bit lighter, and some parts are a little bit darker. I don't know why I always say watered out instead of diluted. That's just what I say. But anyway, I'm going in here with a earth color, a brownish color, and it's going to add a little bit more depth to the tree there and give it a little bit more form, a little bit more color, a little bit more, it looks a little bit more like a painting. That's just what I'm doing with it. But there's not a whole lot in there. Just a little bit. I still leave a couple of spots of white to maybe have some highlights in it. You see it's a rough piece. That's the point of the whole thing. Okay, now I'm going over to the ink, and I'm going to start with a very light color, and then I'm going to add a little bit of a darker color. I'm actually going to use the same color in this one, just a little bit darker, but you can use a light and dark color. I'm just going out with a more diluted color. It's watered out. You know what it is. So I'm doing that, and I'm leaving a couple of gaps. If you look in both of them, I'm leaving a couple of white gaps, like a real tree. There's not always, it's not a solid thing. There's some space that comes through, some light comes through the other side. So that's what I'm doing, leaving a couple of those highlights in there. And now I'm going back in, and I'm going to add some of the more concentrated color of the same color. And it's just going to create a little bit more texture in the whole flow of things. And then I'll go down below and I'll do something a little different. I'm going to add some different colors down below to make it look a little bit more, just to have like a little bit more variety, some pop to it. That's just all I'm doing there. But you see how easy these are. These are very simple. And this is what I like to do when I go out somewhere. I go out there and I just open up my book and I sketch something. It's still an abstract piece. This is not a realistic piece by any means. But I am having a great time. I love doing this kind of stuff. So I just go back in. Right now I'm just adding a little bit more contrast, so just a couple more darker spots over the lighter spots, so you can see that a little bit better. Then I'll go down and add the other one. But like I was saying, I enjoy doing this. I do this with a lot of different things. It just doesn't have to be landscapes. You can do this with like anything. You could do it with fruit. You could do it with anything that is recognizable, but you're also going to make it a little bit more abstract by going about it very loose and very quick. So yes, this is definitely more impressionistic, but it's still abstract. This is not what a tree actually looks like. Your mind, this is something about abstract art. Your mind puts pieces together that aren't there because it's trying to make sense of what it's looking at. So all you have to do is just kind of come up with the idea of something, and your mind automatically wants to fill in those details and say, no, this is what it is. This is what I recognize, so this is what it must be. Now, sometimes in abstract art, you go completely abstract and your mind struggles and just can't figure it out and just twists trying to figure something out. But in this case, it's more pleasing. For me, it is anyway. It's more pleasing than a realistic piece. I don't like, if you do a realistic landscape, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't ever think there's something wrong with that. But I like the more abstract landscapes, the looser landscapes. And when you look at these two, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at one, that this one here gets blended a lot more. The other one, it just looks more abstract. That's just how it is. So I'm going to go into a full landscape drawing now and show you that. Okay, so I found this picture on Pixabay, and just the landscape part of it, that little cabin that I add into it was not there. I just wanted to add that in. It was just the little hill with, that's it. But, and the tree was a little different and the background. But anyway, I wanted to add something here, and I wanted to make it with the different colors that were not in the picture. It was a very dreary picture, not very bright, not very vibrant, and it was just normal, unsaturated colors, a couple of greens, couple of earth tones. I wanted to make it pop a little bit, so I used different tones in my picture than is actually used in the picture that I was looking at, and I changed a couple of other things, a little bit of the composition. So, but I wanted to, and I also make the ground a little bit more busy than maybe sometimes I would have any other time, but I wanted it to be, I just wanted to add the extra texture. But you don't have to do that. You can add it a little bit more sparse and then fill in the color that way, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to add all of the ground to have a lot of texture in it. So that's what I did, but you don't have to do that. And really, I just had fun with this. Was very quick. I just found a picture that I enjoyed, then the one that I like to look at, and then I just go ahead and filled in just some texture in there and did what I wanted to do, make a couple darker spots, couple lighter spots. Then you look at how I did the cabin, and it's very, very loose, and you see I'm just dabbing in the lines. I'm not even really putting them. And then it just, you add whatever detail you want to it. You're just, when you start with the ink, you're just looking for the shadows. You're just looking for the basic shapes, and that's about it. Then you go back in with a little bit of watercolor just to lend like a a clear wash of color, and then you go ahead and start adding other colors to it to make it look a little bit more, again, textured. The darker areas look like the shadow areas, but not the total shadow areas. It's like a three-part puzzle here. You're adding the black, which is the absolute darkest spot. Then you're adding a lighter color just to fill in some color, and then a darker color to add a little bit more contrast of color, but like more of a mid-tone. And so it looks like a complete section. It looks like a complete thing that you're doing. But anyway, like I said, not only did I enjoy doing this, but it's something that I always enjoy doing. I've never not enjoyed doing so. And you'll see when I do the house, or that little cabin, those lines aren't straight. That roof is crooked. Don't worry about it. It's a part of the abstract part. So you're not held. There's no anxiety here. You're not held to a standard like, oh, you have to do this one little thing. You don't have to do anything. You just have to go ahead and do whatever you enjoy doing, and then you put in whatever lines you want, leave out whatever lines you don't want, and just get on with it. That's just how it is. And I put a little tree line in the back, and you'll see I add multiple colors to that, and it gives you a little texture. When I first do everything, you can't really tell what the end result is going to be. You have no idea because I just add some shadow. Then when I add the wash, you still have no idea. What are you trying to do? But then on the last color in the section, that's when it all comes together. That's when you can actually see everything happening. You're like, oh, yeah, okay, now it makes sense. I understand. But before that, you really had no idea. You didn't know. This, like everything else, art always takes time to happen. It always takes time to work. So there's always, you have that ugly phase in the beginning. You're not really sure what's going on. And then you start to add a little bit more detail. You're like, still, what? But when you finish it up in the final stages, you're adding the last little bit. Oh, now I see what it is. And that's just how it always ends up. At least for me, that's how it ends up. Maybe not for you. Maybe you're going through it and you're like, okay, I know what the end result's going to be. And you have that picture in your mind. And so it doesn't matter what you're actually doing. But never for me. I always have to see the end result. I always have to say, okay, now it's time to stop. Once I see it, I'm like, oh, okay, now I see it. Now I know when to stop. But before that, I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I don't know if it's going to work out very well. And that's just how my brain works. So I did do a couple more of these trees. These are going out to patrons. If I have not already sent them, they will be going soon. Thumb up the video if you're going to try this and give it a shot and see what you can create with it. I'm going to do a couple more where I'm going to blend this with a little bit more of a doodle style, a little bit more of a abstract drawing included with something like this. And it's going to be, you'll see, I already have it planned out. I think I have it planned out. I don't know if it's actually going to work the way that I want it to, but I'm going to give it a shot. If you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.